We have a couple of seats up here in the front if anybody wants to come find a seat. Really, it's okay. I promise. There you go. Nobody else? Okay. All right. Well, if anybody wants to, you can come sit up here at the front. All right. Based on what I see sitting at the table, it looks like we have enough to determine a quorum, so at this time I'm going to call the meeting to order tonight. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, fellow board members, based on the agenda as it's been presented, we need to approve the agenda as presented. Who would like to make that motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
All right, Mr. Smith has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns is seconding. All in favor say aye.
Madam Chair, there's a couple of corrections need to be made to the agenda
All right.
prior to approval, final approval. We need to waive policy 2200.
Okay.
It requires the superintendent to lead the elections of officers. So we need to change that, waive that, and allow the attorney.
Madam Chair, that would just be a waiver that takes place before you go, so we could call it item 5A, and then 5B would be election of officers. If that's agreeable to the board to keep it consistent.
I'll amend my motion then, based on what Mr. George said.
I have one more amendment, if I can make it, please. Can we offer a moment of silence for the destruction of the storms this past week, and for our nation as a whole, and our school system that seems to be under attack by these crazy threats of violence here lately. I think we don't do enough of moments of silence anymore, and I think that may be what is affecting us here. So if we could take a moment of silence somewhere on the agenda.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have no problem if we do that right now and
Okay.
before we get started with any business.
So, Mr. Smith, the position would be to do the moment of silence immediately following
No, to do it right now and then do the
approval of the agenda.
approval of the agenda. Out of respect.
So I have a motion. Do I have to get a second for that?
I'll second.
Mr. George is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So at this moment, we're going to take a moment of silence, please.
Can we stand?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we need to
Approve the
agenda with the amended, okay. So now we need someone to please approve the agenda as amended.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
All right, Mr. Hall's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so at this time, we're going to go to 5A.
All right. So, Madam Chair, prior to election of officers, you have to suspend Board Policy 2200, the election of officers in regards to the designated individual who would be conducting the elections. Currently, under the Board Policy, it says the superintendent will be conducting those elections, and I would happily step into that role in the absence of the superintendent to conduct those elections. So that would be the suspension of the policy and then the board designating me. So if that's amenable to a member of the board, you can simply make a motion, say, I so move what Mr. McPherson said.
All right, who would like to make that motion?
I so move what Mr. McPherson said.
All right, Ms. Burns has made that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. George is seconding. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And at this time, we will now move on to election of officers.
All right. Good evening, board. Consistent with Board Policy 2200, we will go about the election of officers for the next calendar year. As a reminder, you have adopted the Robert's Rules of Order. as far as your parliamentary procedure. Nominations do not require a second. The way I'll proceed is I will open the floor to nominations. Individuals be nominated to the floor, and then I will close nominations, and then we'll go directly to a vote. I'll take any concerns about that procedure before we get started. Okay. At this time, I will open the floor to nominations for chair person of the Pender County Board of Education.
I nominate Brad George as chair.
Ms. Burns nominates Mr. George. Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Ken Smith.
Paul nominates Mr. Smith. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, I will close nominations and we'll proceed to a vote. In the order in which they were presented, all those in favor of Mr. George, please raise. Okay, raise your hand. Okay. And all those in favor of Mr. Smith. All right. That is a 3-2. And congratulations, Mr. George. You are chair. Now, Mr. George, I'll give this purview to you. You can either conduct the vice chair election or I can do it.
I'll let you continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, moving on to vice chair. I am opening the floor to nominations of the vice chair.
I would like to nominate Beth Burns as vice chair, please.
Okay, Ms. Fontana has nominated Ms. Burns. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, this is simply a formality. Ms. Burns, do you accept the...
I do.
Okay. Congratulations, Ms. Burns. You are the vice chair of the Pender County Board of Education. Mr. George, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, board members, for your confidence. Ms. Fontana, thank you for last year. You did an outstanding job through some difficult times. If we could take a 2-minute recess just to play musical chairs, that would be appreciated.
Sounds good.
He's not with us tonight, so Bob is going to do the recognition for us.
Thank you, Mr. George. Yeah, Superintendent Hill is with his phone this evening, so I'll take care of the recommendations. You can tell by the packed house, we have a lot of those tonight. The first one, unfortunately, wasn't able to be with us tonight, but it's still significant that we want to make an announcement. Dr. Stephen Olmstead, who was a local dentist with Topsail Dental, his practice did an initiative where for the month of September, they took 10% of each cleaning, and that money was donated to Pender County Schools. That came up to $2,000. So that $2,000 was a gracious gift, and that helped us fully fund one of the mini grants that we've talked so much about this year. So we have a certificate for Dr. Olmsted that we will pass on. We also want to take some time to recognize a group from Pender Early College. Olivia Springer is an English teacher at the school, and she, with some of her students, decided to do a fundraiser, raise the money for a very good cause, raised some money for area foster children, and to get some gifts, ahead of the holiday season. And I shouldn't say they just raised some money. They raised more than $3,000 for some area foster children. So this is obviously great, especially this time of year. So we would like to have Ms. Springer come up, and she has some of her students with her that helped. So we have Allie Miller, Ellie Casey, Sarah Woolard, Sarah Leffler, Sinead Morrow, Madison Buff, Sinead Hayes, Delana Meredith, and Tiana Holmes. If everyone wants to come up. That's okay. Since I know you. Is Allie here? Congratulations. Ellie? Congratulations. Okay, so give you Sarah's. So both Sarah's are going. Sinead. Thank you very much. Madison. And Donna Madison. Just make sure you got one there. Make sure that you've got it. So Sinead. And okay. Awesome. So we're going to have you guys get together. We'll take a picture of you with the board members. If board members want to come forward. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we also want to thank and recognize a group of graduates. They're not necessarily graduates from Pender County Schools, but what they graduated for goes a long way towards helping us further the education of children. So we want to bring up Kelsey Lewis from North Topsail Elementary School, Krista Bosey from Topsail Middle, Kristen Ferrier from Pender Lee, and Regina Hill from Heidi Trask High School. You can all come up, and I'll let everyone know why you're coming up. So each of these ladies have completed the North Carolina Association of School Business Officials Treasurers Academy, and that helps them with the requirements of the school treasurer's office. So it's a very important role and an achievement for them. So with this achievement, 18 of the 19 positions that we have for this particular position within Pender County Schools has now passed these classes. So this is a great achievement. Kelsey not here? Okay. Does someone want to give it to her? Sold. So, Krista, congratulations. Kristen, congratulations. And Regina, thank you. Thank you for the email again. Ladies, I'll get your photo.
That's what you like to
Yeah,
get.
that's it.
Just say Miss Fuzzy is actually from Topsail Elementary.
Oh, no, is that the wrong school? I'm sorry. Krista's from Topsail Elementary, for the record, which I will make official here momentarily.
I'm gonna come up here and get my picture.
All right, ladies, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. we'll get the board members.
It helps, it helps.
Beth, you step with this one too.
Yes, you are. You came right there. I didn't pass the class.
Doesn't matter.
All right, ready, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2. Thank you, ladies. Congratulations. Wonderful. All right, so now this is kind of the, I don't want to say we saved the best for last, we'll save the longest for last, and this is the reason. So, in the spirit of the holiday, we wanted to bring all the children in whose artwork was recognized for our Christmas cards this year, for the holiday cards. So, we had a lot of submissions that were whittled down to the final 7, and so we have the artwork from the 7 kids to be displayed today, or tonight. So we'll first up, you want to go there? Is that number 1 for you? All right, so.
That's not number 1 for him.
Hang on. No, I'm sorry.
It's not. It's
I
not.
was wrong.
Zoe should be number 1.
Zoe's number.
All right, so Zoe Fisher, 4th grader from Topsail Elementary School. Her art teacher is Jessica Barker, who I believe was also North Topsail Elementary School. If you're keeping score, that's 2 fails on my part. So Zoe went with the snowman. She went the full gamut. Snowman, tree, sled, fully equipped with snowballs. So
Lots of detail.
maybe working some things out here over the holiday season. It's a great picture there that kind of encompasses the winter spirit. So that's from Zoe, and we're going to bring everyone up here at the end. So that was Zoe's card. Her classmate, Kaylin Barker, so also a 4th grader at North Topsail. Jessica Barker is her art teacher and mom. So there you go. Also a snowman, so the snowman with some little gingerbread folks and a nice red gingerbread house in the background. So this is another card that will be featured as they're sent out for the holiday season, so we appreciate that. Lorena Vieta Acuna, a 7th grader at Cape Fear Middle. Her art teacher is Tammy Patrick, and Lorena came up with this, a nice little kind of a stained glass design with a teddy bear and some gifts. I like the coffee shop that's been added in the back to keep the parents caffeinated during the season. So plenty of gifts there, a lot of nice color for the holiday season. So this is another one of the cards that'll go out. Noemi Ramos, an 8th grader from West Pender Middle, her art teacher Kendall Cortez. Noemi let her imagination just run wild with this. It's kind of, I just went with dinosaur reindeer. A nice blue scarf. There's a lot of green in this, kind of camouflage into the background with the trees, but a lovely Happy Holidays signature there going out as well. So Noemi, we appreciate that card being sent in and chosen. Another 8th grader, James Russell from Surf City Middle School. Ashley Bordeaux is his art teacher / mom. He went with the beach theme, not too far away from us, so with a nice little Pender County flair in the photo with the candy cane and a seahorse wrapped around it there. So this is a lovely capture of what I've called so many times the luckiest place in the world to live in southeastern North Carolina. Such a great one there. And Ava Del Basti, also an 8th grader from Surf City Middle. She also put Pender County front and center up there in the corner with a nice pine tree. Little wispy pine with some stars in the background surrounding that and a star on top, so that's a nice one there. And the final card from the imagination of Esme Bourneau, who is a 7th grader at Topsail Middle. She wasn't able to be here tonight because of a scheduling conflict. Actually, her school band is going tonight, so she's taking part in that, so she can't just draw, she can play an instrument. So we did want to show that, the nice moonlight on the pine trees there, a nice evening with a shooting star. So even though she can't be with us tonight, we wanted to make mention of that. So give a nice round of applause for all these kids. Come on up. So Zoe, boom, right at the top. Congratulations. Is Caitlin here? I like your sweater. Lorena? Congratulations. Esme? You got it. Noemi? Congratulations. James? Congratulations. And then Ava, who we will get. Congratulations. We're going to take a picture of you as well.
I'm going to put you in the center since you're the tallest. Between you two. There you go.
Yeah. All right, ready? 1, 2, cheese. 1, 2. Awesome. All right, board. Take a couple more pictures with you. And I'll get copies of them if they want. Barry, you can come closer, don't you? She said, I won't. All set? Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thanks, guys. And parents, I have packets with cards in them. So Esme was not here for breakfast. You know Amy?
Sweet little kid.
Zoe, I've got yours. Eva, Caitlin, and then Lorena. And if there's not enough cards that I've given you, let us know we have more, and I can get you more. So thank you again.
Thank you all, congratulations. Those cards go out to different vendors and districts across the state, so they're spread out across here. So thank you all, excellent job. We're now moving into public comment. And I do not have the public comment verbiage. So we have one sign up tonight, so I'll just ad lib the thing.
Is it attached to the sheet?
It's not.
That's it.
Is it not saying or anything like that? Oh, okay.
So here's just the little rules that we have to abide by. The Pender County Board of Education welcomes comments from parents, students, and community. The open session for public comment is designed for the Board of Education to listen and respond at a later time if necessary. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Pass that back, Mr. Boomerang. We have one sign up, Pamela Willis. Yes, ma'am, just come up to the podium.
Thank you, guys. Can I stand here?
To the podium where the microphone is, if you would, please.
First, I want to take them to say thank you guys for giving me a moment and just wish you all a Merry Christmas. Because when we said the pledge, the part of us being a country under God and being indivisible with liberty and justice for all, I think that includes our children. And as a parent, the worst thing that I could ever imagine was my daughter coming to me after a Zoom call with her eyes filled with tears, and she had to look at me and say, "Mama, can I ask you something?" And I said, "Yes, baby, what's wrong?" "Why am I bad because I'm white? You told me that we're supposed to judge on character and not color." And I don't understand why I'm bad because I'm white. And I don't know how that has come into her origins, since race has never been something that we taught. We've always practiced Martin Luther King Jr. Our family is a diverse family, and for my 8-year-old to come heartbroken and crushed is just unacceptable for any parent of any color, of any child, because God painted us all with his beautiful rainbow. And I don't know who I should thank for teaching racism to my child, but I would like to just know how, as a parent, we can take and not paint our children in a horrific light, so that when we stand before our Almighty God and Peter and Paul says, "What did you do for the kingdom?" I can say, I stood up for my children. I stood up for your children. And that's all I have to say, other than Merry Christmas. And I hope we can find the problem and stop crushing our children when we should be bringing them up and lifting them up and letting them know that they've got a worthiness that God gave them, and that we live in the greatest country ever. And no matter what the split, the divide, and the hatred that's come, we are all God's children. And either we're going to rise together or we're going to fail together. And if we're already in Revelations and we need to take and be prepared because humanity is not mattering anymore, Revelations 5 would be about where that's at. Thank you guys for your time. And again, God bless you guys and Merry Christmas.
Moving into the next part of our agenda, information agenda. Ms. Chestnut, your fiscal year 2021 annual report.
Yes, she's gonna do it virtually.
Ms. Turbeville is on the line. You have the report not only online that was sent to you electronically, but you also have a paper copy. Ms. Turbeville?
Yes, sir.
You are on.
Can everyone? Okay, good deal. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandy Turbeville. I'm audit manager with Thompson Price Scott and Adams. As he said, you have a packet, hopefully in front of you, where we kind of summarize the key items from the audit. As of right now, the LGC has not approved the audit, so we didn't prepare the full draft for you just yet. You'll get a completed copy once they have approved and signed off on everything. But this packet is the presentation summary with all the key items in it. So if you would be kind enough to start on page 1, this will be a letter that we're required to communicate certain items to you each year. So I'll just kind of go through and highlight from this letter the key items, which pretty much consists of the fact that there were no new accounting pronouncements that were in effect for this year for the school board. We didn't have any difficulties gathering information or completing the audit. The report was dated November 16th. We had no findings or issues identified in the report, which is always a good thing. To say overall, the opinion was unmodified, which means it's a clean report with no discrepancies to note in the findings section. One big change coming up for next year, we'd like to make sure everyone is completely aware, is concerning leases. Most finance directors have had class after class after class about the significance of this standard, and it's going to be a real time-consuming item. You think of a school district, the number of copiers you have, those kind of things are going into play in this new standard. So we're happy to talk with the finance director, give any kind of information we've heard from others if they're interested. But most have already kind of got a start on this because it will be in effect for next year's audit. So a lot of information will have to be gathered. So if you hear of a request, we always put this plug in for the finance department. If you hear of a request for funding for a program to help them with this, it's probably really needed because it's going to be a lot of effort to get this information gathered for next year's financials. With that, we'll go into the numbers for this year, starting on page 4 of the handout. We try to summarize 5 years worth of data for you so that it's easy to see the trends as to if you're heading in a positive or negative direction. Starting with the general fund, from 17 to 21, the fund balance has increased in the general fund almost $4 million. I won't bore you with the details of all the numbers. You can kind of see it laid out there. I'll just kind of hit some of the highlights. General fund expenditures are up almost $4 million from 2017, comparatively speaking. The general fund's kind of lost its flavor, I call it, in the last several years since it pretty much just handles the allocations from the county, and there's not as much activity in it as it used to be. We list out the cash balances for each of the main funds, fund balance, and then you can see the revenue breakdown over the last 5 years for the general fund. And when you continue on to page 5, it has the expenditure breakdown for the general fund as well. All of that information will be better highlighted in the charts that follow. So we'll continue on through the charts and go through those to kind of give you a better picture. Starting on page 6, the first chart is fund balance for the general fund, with the blue graph being the total fund balance and the red being restricted. So there's not a lot of the funds that are restricted in the general fund balance at this time. The next chart is analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your
The green light went out, Dr. B. Did she hang on the phone here?
Lost her. All right. She's still on?
Yeah, I can still see.
Yeah. Ms. Turbeville, can you hear us? Yep. Dr. Hill, can you hear us? All right, wonderful. All right. All right, we'll see what we're doing. So you can still see them
Yeah,
in there?
and I'm letting them know in messages that we can still see them. We're trying to correct.
All right. Ms. Turbeville, can you hear us? Dr. Hill, can you hear us? All right, I'm going to hang up and start the meet again. Okay.
I'm sorry I can't come to the phone right now, but if you could please leave your name, your number, and a message, I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Dr. B, want me to have her hang up?
Yep, have them hang up. Please.
Okay, she's hung up. And Dr. Hill is also off.
Okay, good deal. Well, let's try it again.
Welcome to Google Meet. Enter the meeting pin followed by the pound key. Thank you. You're joining a call with 3 other people.
So I see she and Dr. Hill's number.
Okay, Dr. Hill, are you here? Ms. Tuberville, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. All right, Dr. Hill? Still no.
Yeah, I can see.
All right.
Ms. Tuberville, if you'd like to continue, I think we have it
Okay.
back. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Technology is a wonderful thing someday. How far back did I stop? Or could you hear me? We on page 7?
You were on page 6 on the fund balance.
Unassigned fund balance. Okay. So I'll go back to the bottom of page 6. Unassigned fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures. So it's from 2017 to 2021, that number has grown from 8.65% to 27.49%. For school districts, that's not really a ratio that's looked at a whole lot by the local government commission, but we always like to throw it in just as an idea as to how much fund balance you have available for future expenditures. Going on page 7, analysis of revenues over or under expenditures before transfers. It lists for the last 5 years the main funds, most of which have been positive. Capital outlay has had fluctuations as a result of hurricane damage and receiving money, paying for repairs, and that kind of thing. Bottom of page 7 is child nutrition, a net position. That number kind of dipped in 2018 as a result of the implementation of the pension standards. Health insurance and that kind of thing had to be reflected, but it's grown back up to 2021 at $3 million. Page 8 has cash balances and fund balances for the main funds: general fund, capital outlay, other restricted, and nutrition and child care. So you can see where your cash is at and which funds and fund balance as well. Page 9 shows the breakdown of the allocation from the county for operating expenditures, and also the breakdown of fines and forfeitures that's been received over the last 5 years. And then on page 10, the top chart being the general fund revenues, which is primarily the allocation from the county. And the general fund expenditures will show you that system-wide support makes up 66% of the total general fund expenditures, while instructional makes up about 30%. Page 11 shows you the allocations from the state and from the federal grant allocations. So you can see from 2017 to 2021, the state funded $53 million as opposed to $65.8 million for 21. And the federal grants has had a decline since 2017, but it's pretty much in line from where it was for 2020. And with that kind of goes through the main items. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there any questions, board members? No, man, there's no questions.
I was just going to say, it's always a pleasure to work with Ms. Betsy and her finance staff. They do a good job, and we appreciate the opportunity to perform the audit for you.
Thank you. Tell Mr. Thompson we said hello. It's unusual not seeing him in person.
Yeah, he had a scheduling conflict. His little grandson's Christmas play was tonight, and he hated to miss it. So I understand that. Happy to do it for you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good night. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
8.2 District COVID-19 protocols and processes, including an update from AFS.
Mr. Chair, let me say Madam Chair. Members of the board, just some updated information. So this is what is posted, of course, weekly on our website. You can see on the very far right hand is last week, December 5th through the 11th, broken out by school. please be aware, and this is as much for the board as it is for our public, these are school-based COVID cases that are able to be determined from school origin. And so, as you can see, there's been a bump up from last week, as of last week, in our currently excluded. So that information, again, for our board and for the public, that information can be found on the district landing page. Once you go to the main district page, scroll down a little bit, you'll see a big bright yellow box that says COVID-19 dashboard. Click right there and that will bring you to the most up-to-date information from last week. For a real quick moment, we'd like to talk to everyone about opting in for COVID testing. This is, of course, the same slide that we showed last regular board meeting. The COVID-19 hypertext link is up on the upper left-hand side. You click on that, and that, of course, will bring you to the on-site testing where one can opt in, either themselves as a staff member or their children if they are a parent. Please be aware that we currently have 360 staff and students currently registered for testing. So a little bit more than we did last time. I was able to pull a report for the testing process, and this is actually pretty interesting. This gives us detailed information, and by the way, I do have to put a plug in for our nurses, both our regular school nurses, our staffing agency nurses, and some of our contract nurses that are all kind of working through these processes with us. There's been a total since we started in November of 85 tests that have been released. Of those 85, we have had 5 positives, giving us a positivity rate of 5.88%. And of course, you can see it's a little bit washed out on this, but this gives us the number of tests with valid results by day, and so the number of participants that have been tested. And so currently, we've had a total of 94 people tested. Also, some other information that we're able to pull down is the sample processing by date and where COVID-19 is detected, where it's not detected, and of course where it's processing, and of course that's the purple, and you can see on the far right-hand side, all of that stuff was done today, so therefore it is still in process. The other information right below that is the median turnaround time, and they've been able to limit it to approximately 6 hours turnaround from when receiving the test. So that is much faster turnaround than what was originally anticipated, which was 24 hours. So that is good. And then, of course, I'm just tracking appointments. There's been some that have been canceled, some completed, but, you know, it is part of the process. So that's some of the data we've been able to get, and of course we can slice and dice this numerous ways. We can do it by staff, by students, by gender, by ethnicity, et cetera, et cetera. There's many different ways to look at this data, but this kind of gives you a broad view of what we can see with regards to the COVID testing program. So, I also want to bring up Ms. Kimberly from AFS. She's with us here. Now, Ms. Kimberly is an AFS office admin, so she'll just give you a little bit of information regarding their processes.
All right, how you doing this evening? Okay, everything is still the same with our cleaning and sanitizing per Pender County standards and your guidelines set by your contractor. As things may intensify, if it does, whatever guidelines you set in place as your contractor, we will comply. Now, as far as our staffing is concerned, I am office admin, and I can report that I call this side main side, which is Burgal area, and we are at approximately 55 employees, 2 and not including the lady here that cleans the resource building and the 2 gentlemen at the board. They're not included in that. Now, on beach side, which I call the Hampstead side, because I come from Surrey City Middle School, and I'm proud about that. But anyway, we have 37 employees thus far. I have a lady coming in tomorrow as far as the interview is concerned, and her work ethics are really good, and we're a potential for a hire and 2 more gentlemen, and that will finish staffing Surf City Middle School thus far, and we just need 1 more person as a floater. It's been a trying year in the workforce. And as far as anything else, upon the year as being your contractor, the other issue will be addressed as far as funds is concerned. I said something that,
You did. You made us feel better that you are getting staff back. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I am, that's been very trying, but it has worked. I've tried to be forthcoming and let them know that whenever you walk into the school, it must be your home as well. And I have tried to do that, and so far, it has worked. Do you have anything you want?
Any questions, board members?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Questions?
Is any of the schools having to share the janitorial staff? Does each school have someone, or are they shifting around? I mean, what's happening in that aspect?
There have been some shortages, and then we did not get the full complement on the front end from our staffing agency. So there's been some movement right now, and as things are settling and we're bringing everybody on, we're trying to make sure that everybody has their own staff. The way that it's currently set up, though, is by feeder school pattern. So if somebody is at Cape Fear Elementary, Cape Fear Middle, they'll also be serving then Rocky Point and Ivy Trask for now. Now, if we get more, we can get everybody out and push them out to schools. But we're also seeing certain spikes only in particular areas. So it may be, when looking at the data and the distribution, we may not need testing at every site all the time, the way that we're seeing it maybe at a couple of sites. You know, and a lot of that has to do with what's going on outside of the schools.
Correct. I think, Mr. Smith, you were asking about janitorial staff? He was asking about janitorial staff. Are they having to share, or the schools having to share janitorial staff?
That, see, I was talking about, I'll focus on nurses.
Thank you for that information.
And I really appreciate you. But,
I figured you were answering what I needed to know, maybe.
well, what you were thinking.
Yes.
So that I cannot give you an answer about, but I will get you one.
The only reason I'm asking, I'm sure that would be extra burden on the school and the employee as well, so I just want to make sure that we're not taxing them, certain employees, in too much with all this extra labor here.
I do know that, like Ms. Kimberly said, it's, staffing's been a challenge.
Getting better, okay.
But it is getting better, so.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions for Dr. B concerning COVID protocols?
Yeah, it's specifically about COVID.
Thank you, Dr. B. Board members, we are now at the consent agenda. You've had time to review the consent agenda. Is there any questions about any items? Not to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion passes. We are now in the action fun part, the money part. Ms. Chestnut, the 2021-22 budget as we know it today. Which, as Ms. Chestnut explained, those figures and numbers are still flowing out of Raleigh at a crazy rate and with no real meaning yet. So we are approving what we have today with the understanding that next month we'll have several amendments to the budget. So board members, is there any questions for Ms. Chestnut concerning the 2021-22 budget? Not to have a motion to approve the 2021-22 budget? as currently presented.
Make a motion to approve the Pender County School 2021-22 budget as currently presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 10.2, PACES Program Budgetary Proposal. Brother Akins.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, come before you with a request regarding our fees and structures for PACES. We have not had a fee increase since 2015, 2016. Our current enrollment is 364 students, but we actually have another wait list of over 160 more. Like we've talked about tonight with everyone else, staffing has certainly been a challenge. We have 19 currently employed. We have 9 vacancies, and if we want to serve as many of our Pender County students as we can, we actually need 6 more. So we've been looking at, the other thing we've had to deal with is the recent budget that Ms. Chestnut was talking about from the state does also require that we move all of our classified staff to a minimum of $15 an hour within the next 2 years. Currently, our PACES assistants do not make $15 an hour. They make $11 and change. Our site directors make $17 and change. We also need to upgrade a lot of our equipment, our instructional supplies, our technology, and we certainly want to work with Mr. LaFawn to try to make sure that as our PACES students are utilizing the playgrounds and fields and classrooms, that we start being able to contribute in a positive way back to our schools. So come before the board requesting an agreement or a proposal to utilize, one is to increase our PACES assistant staff from their current $11.92 to the $15 an hour per legislation, and to do an equal $3.08 increase for our PACES directors to go from $17.10 to $20.18 effective January of 22. We would also like to do a phased-in approach to our fees. Our fees are $45 a week currently, which puts us well below anything else in the area. And again, as we've grown, those fees have not changed in almost 6 years. We'd like to utilize some already set aside after-school funding that was part of our ESSER 3 grant to not do any increase this year and to do a phased increase starting in August of 22 with $7.50, and then in August of 23 another $7.50, which would raise our weekly fees to $60 a week, which still puts us below market value. We would like to keep the benefits that we have in place for our PACES staff, which is half off, and also the current benefits that we offer for multi-students who are enrolled, where they get $5 off for each subsequent student. We would propose to use any fee increase to accommodate the salary increases of our staff, to begin trying to make sure that we provide appropriate professional development, and to greatly increase and upgrade our technology, instructional materials, safety equipment such as radios, PE equipment, and even bring in some of our field trips to our schools to try to support our students in our after-school program.
Board members, you've heard the proposals. Are any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the proposal as presented?
I make a motion to approve the PACES program budgetary proposal.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, those all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
If you have a moment, I just want to thank Ms. Lofton and all of her folks. They have been working tirelessly for several years now. Ms. Lofton especially, she was out working today. So if she's listening, thank you, Ms. Lofton.
We were at 10.3. Board members, this was on the agenda last month. There was some discussion about the need for it. Mr. LaFawn sent us all the information this month. If there's any questions, I'm assuming Dr. B is filling in.
Yes, sir.
If not, everyone's had a chance to review it. They'll have a motion to approve the Cape Fear Elementary, Cape Fear Middle School fire system upgrade.
I make a motion that we approve the Cape Fear Elementary, Cape Fear Middle School fire suppression system upgrade.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
So I'm a tiebreaker and I vote a no. 10.4 clear touch panels purchase. This is pretty interesting. These things are pretty neat.
Yes, this is very interesting. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, what this is the promise of what whiteboards really once were 10 years ago, where you can touch, you can draw and all of that, but this is a similar technology to that kind of monitor, except it's a fully touchscreen. That can be used much like you would with a Microsoft Surface or a touchscreen computer, except it's on either 65 or 75-inch television. Hooked up to a computer, Chromebox, which can do all the things that a panel like that can do, in addition to what the whiteboard can bring to the table. So this is not only very interesting, we are planning upon recommendation and approval, of course, using local funds, or 15 funds. So that will be technology funds. And I do want to stress that this is a collaborative set of circumstances. It is technology, both the instructional side, software side, and then the hardware side, working with instructional services, working with the school very closely. And all of that is integrated. And there's lots of PD that needs to go on with not only learning how to use the panel and all of the software suite, but then using it and leveraging it for instruction. So, recommended for your approval, but prior to any questions.
Board members, are there any questions?
So West Pender is getting the bulk of this?
Yes, we're using them as a test bed because they're very, very small, very tight-knit group. And of course, we have a willing participant who wants to see this realized.
I make a motion that we approve it.
A motion to approve, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dr. B. We are done with the action agenda. 11.1, comments from board members. Mr. Smith, we'll start on your end tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think a few of the folks are here tonight. If not, if you see them, just make sure to pass the word. Miss Fuller's here. She's had a birthday this month. Miss Carolyn Godwin has had a birthday coming up on Christmas Day, so we're looking forward to celebrating that. In fact, we're giving her the day off and closing her school for that. James Lawrence got a birthday this month. Brian Allen's birthday this month. And also Dr. Charles Aiken's birthday was this month. No? We're not talking about it, okay. But the one that I really want to pay special attention to is one that's tomorrow. It's a person that does a lot of work behind the scenes, and I will say this, that when the superintendent is like on vacation or out of place, a lot of times people wonder who to call. He really fields all the calls and does so much, but he will never take any credit for his own. He's the one that puts our board packet together and does a lot of presentations for us. He also is somebody who answers questions that are not even asked. So I want to personally, I want to wish tomorrow Dr. Todd Blumenwright a happy birthday, and we're very thankful to have him. Thank you.
And he blends in with your coat right now.
He does, yeah. Well, at least I didn't ask the chair to sing happy birthday to you. So. Thank you.
Ms. Montana?
I would just like to take a moment and to specifically thank one group. For all of you who are watching and listening right now, especially all of our staff members, you know those bonuses are getting ready to roll. And in case you aren't aware, there's a group of ladies. We need to talk about that group of ladies for a minute. There's a group of ladies who are working tirelessly to make sure that all of our staff members have what they need. financially when it comes to the state edict that came down about the bonuses. You also need to realize that in the month of December, it's an early payroll. And for those of you who aren't aware, there's a lot of work that goes into what these ladies are going through right now. So I would just like to personally say thank you to all of our finance ladies. Betsy, we know that you lead that group, but we also know that there's work goes into it. Also, from what I understand, there's a lot of other people behind the scenes who are helping this group get this done so that they can be in their offices getting these things done. I offered to answer phones, but I was told it was okay. I don't know what that really meant at this moment, but I'm not taking it personally or anything. But I was told, no, we got it covered. So I guess everybody has had it covered. So on behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank finance and the whole crew for doing a job well done. I know you're tired. And I hope all of you have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful Christmas.
Mr. Hall?
I don't have any, just tell everyone Merry Christmas.
Ms. Burns?
Well, I'm going to keep this very short, but there are two people up here that I really needed to thank for their leadership for the past year, and that is our past board chair, Sandy Fontana, and the vice chair, Brad George. We have had an interesting year this past year, and there have been some really good times and some really different times. And I always wanted to say, I just wanted to say, I know how much effort you two put into this, and please know how appreciated it's been. And other than that, I just wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. I'd also like to thank Cindy for her leadership this past year. There was times that we were on the phone at, I think one morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. She was headed to Myrtle Beach and I was headed to work. So she did an outstanding job. We had some tough things to go through this year. Thank you for that. So I have a few things I would like to address tonight. I continually hear from our teachers about the lack of discipline that appears to be running rampant through our schools right now. And I want to encourage that we have a code of conduct book, and I want to encourage that we use that code of conduct book. There's disciplines for just about everything in there. We can't allow what's going on right now in our schools. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's not healthy for our students, and it's not healthy for our staff. It puts a big burden on a teacher when, in my opinion, and this is coming from a teacher, when they have discipline problems and they send them out and before the door closes, they're back. We have to do better. So we have the code of conduct book that we approved as a board that has disciplines in it. And I would encourage our principals and administrators to read through that, and let's start trying to get our schools back under control. We're losing teachers at a record pace, and yes, part of it is the work conditions, part of it is the pay, and a lot of it is they just feel like they're being run over. So I encourage that. The other thing is I would like to, and this is adding more meetings, I know, but I like for our lead teachers in each school to come together with ideas of things that they feel that they're being requested to do that's not directly involving teaching a student. I mean, there's so many meetings they attend and so much training that they do, but is it really needed to get a student an education? Are we requiring too much? Or is that why teachers are having to stay up to 10 or 11 o'clock at night? So if our lead teachers could come together from their schools, what they see as issues, and bring it, and we're going to form a committee of the board members and them, and try to find ways to maybe reduce some of that workload and put a little more morale. Pender County is not a wealthy county. We can't compete with New Hanover County. We didn't sell a hospital for $3 billion. So we don't have the funds they have. So we have to try to accommodate our staff and keep them in ways that we can. And by giving them a safe work environment where they're not scared to go in their classroom, where there's discipline that's taken, and taking some of the workload of the things that's not needed off of them, I think will go a long ways. In the places that we can't offer the monetary rewards. So I encourage that. That's one of the things I hope to see this year. Another thing that we're getting ready to embark on is a bond package for possibly new schools. And if you're in the east side schools, and some of our west side schools are getting to capacity, but all of our east side schools are at or over, or way over capacity. We've been in talks with the county commissioners. They know it's coming. And so we'll be rolling that out, what that's going to look like hopefully soon. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Those sorts of things, with the growth we're getting, it's just unmanageable at times. I mean, Ms. Wilson can tell you, and Dr. O back there, he can tell you that those schools are just busting. Topsail Middle School is back up to over capacity, and we just split it with Topsail Surf City. Surf City's brand new. Surf City Elementary School's over capacity. And it was built, if you were here during the last bond, you'll know that the county commissioners approved additional seating for us to grow into. And that was in 2018, and it's 2021, and they're over capacity. So that's coming. Another thing that I would like to see, and I'm going to ask our attorney, Union County, along with their county commissioners, passed a resolution requesting the state to roll back some of the unnecessary quarantining and sending home of well students. So we were asking the attorney to draft a resolution for us to consider at our mask mandate meeting. Our mask mandatory meeting, which was tentatively set, I think, will be December 28th. We have to, by statute, we have to meet once a month to vote on the mask mandate. And my final thing I would like to do is we're going to put the prayer back on the agenda. And I was the chair when we took it off, and I want to be the chair when it comes back. I want to rotate that around to different ministers and religions throughout Pender County. I want them all to get a invitation, to come or record a prayer to open our meeting with. I think we need it back. I know this is getting in the religious spectrum, but in my heart, I feel like we need it back. Our society is falling apart in front of our eyes, and our school district is feeling the effects of our society. And I know it's maybe a small thing to some, but it's a big thing to me. So I'm going to get Ms. Garner I will get her the list. I'm not going to put any extra burden on her or the churches I can find, and send out an invitation to the ministers and let them send it in, and we'll draw a name out of a hat. That way we can't say that we're preferencing one over the other. But that's coming back to the agenda, I hope, in January. And that is the end of my discussion for tonight. We are now at the comments from the board attorney.
All right, good evening, board. Thank you for the addition of this time. First off, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. We're coming to the end of 2021, and it has not been an easy year for this community or this board. And so I just want to first say thank you to each and every one of you for continuing to serve in your capacity and leading the school district of Pender County. It is not an easy job. It is often a thankless job. But because I see in large ways how much time you guys spend and work on issues, I want to start with a thank you. And thank you to your community and your staff members and your teachers and students for showing up every day and doing everything they can to make school happen in this community. And it has it's been something for me that I really appreciate and sort of in awe of. So I'll start there. Next thing I want to speak of is a recent lawsuit that's been filed. So just so the board is aware, The Office of Head Start, which is a federal agency or a federal arm of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, passed an interim final rule regarding masking and vaccine in Head Start programs throughout the United States. Well, on Friday, the state of Texas and a school district, Luthenbach Independent School District, filed a lawsuit in the Northern District of Texas, and this is the last of the 4 mandates that have come down from the federal government regarding vaccines. I will tell you that the other 3 have been stayed at this point. This would be the final one to be addressed. I've been waiting with bated breath for since the interim final rule came out on November 3rd for this lawsuit to be filed. It finally was filed. So stay tuned for the results of that litigation. It is very important not only for this community but for several communities throughout the state and nation as far as how that litigation moves forward. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out. Next is a question I've been asked regarding what the Strong Schools Toolkit of North Carolina actually is. Recently, the Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services was in a committee hearing before the Joint Committee of Government Operations, and she was asked and seemingly avoided the question or answering the question about what the Strong Schools Toolkit is. Whenever a state official sort of dodges a question, I tend to go looking for the answer with their attorneys because I want to understand what exactly they're requiring of school districts, and I think that's a fair question. Essentially, what we've continuously been told, and I will say seems to be true, is that the Strong Schools School Toolkit is mostly recommendations with a few requirements in it that are also addressed by statute. And the general control measures that are outlined in the statute are sort of outline the 3 obligations of a school district. And this is going to sound familiar to this board, but it's you have an obligation to report cases of communicable diseases that appear in your school district. That's not a surprise. If you have any sort of communicable diseases, you have to report those to your local health director. The second is the sharing of records when properly authorized. You have an obligation to share records with your local health department if and when there is communicable diseases, regardless of COVID or other, with your local health department. The final one, and the one that has gotten the most attention, is the one Mr. George has already mentioned, which is quarantining is not exactly the proper term. The word that is used by the legal department at Health and Human Services is exclusion, because it is the more accurate term. It is the excluding of students who are confirmed, or staff who are confirmed positive from the school setting. And the confirmed positive definition is the one that gets very interesting. And so that's where we talk about whether or not someone has symptoms of COVID-19 until otherwise proven. So that's the chart that you see in the Strong Schools Toolkit. So what DHHS has said as the regulatory agency that published that information is that chart is a general control measure that is authorized by statute for them to implement the control of a communicable disease. And what is more interesting is that certain element is the one that the pushback is growing on from school districts throughout North Carolina, including Union County, because one of the points to be made is that no one is not recognizing that the Department of Health and Human Services isn't the entity who is granted that ability through the State Health Commission to make that call. Nobody's saying that that's not their call. What school districts across the state are saying is you need to revisit this, because the question is whether or not it's actually working, or frankly, is it hurting more than it's actually helping? And that is the question that everybody's looking to be answered. And that's one that that state agency is going to have to answer. But with that, I know that's a heavy topic to end on, but that was my last topic that I wanted to address, and say thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I need to go back. I failed to recognize some people that worked all night last night on some nonsense, and luckily it was nonsense. Mr. Taylor, if you would stand, and Dr. Abita, and I see what jarred my memory was Captain Rao when he walked in. These people stayed up. We started getting texted, Dr. B, we started getting texted 10 minutes to 12 last night from these people working, trying to luckily discredit a threat that was made at Topsail High School today. So I thank them for doing it. I thank all the staff. Unfortunately, several of you had to go through that this year. I thank all of you for that. I mean, that's time consuming, I'm sure very stressful. It was stressful for us board members, and we're nowhere near it. So thank you again. We're at the right. That's the SRO's Captain Rowell and his crew. Report from the superintendent. Dr. Hill, are you reporting? Or are you?
Yeah, I'm on the phone, sir. Just want to say congratulations to you and Ms. Burns as chair and vice chair. Thank Ms. Fontana for all her hard work. Also want to briefly mention the fact that Pender High had a great season this year. They ran close to the state. They got really close. So I just wanted to shout out. Great run, historic from there. And really just want to say Merry Christmas and thank you for a year. It was challenging, but we got through it. And as usual, Pender is a leader in this state, and we want to continue to be that way. So thank you for all your leadership and everything you guys have done.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. We are now entering into closed session. Ms. Burns, will you read the motion?
Pender County Board of Education will enter closed session subject to the advice from the attorney pursuant to NC General Statute 143-318.11A1 and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under GS 115C-319 and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to consider confidential student matters as provided in NC General Statute 143.318.11A1 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20 U.S.C. 1232G and North Carolina General Statute 115C-402.
Board members, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're now in closed session. Thank you all. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Board members, do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Make a motion to come out of closed session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board members, is there a motion to approve the HR report and addendum as presented?
I make a motion to approve the HR report and addendum as presented.
Is there all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes.
Make a motion to approve the closed session minutes that were presented.
Is there a second?
I'll
And-
second. Oh, sorry.
Quick editorial. I believe you would like to say that those minutes will remain confidential because of the personnel information contained therein, Mr.
Because of confidential information, that they remain, as the attorney said.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.